Okay, we're going to talk about positive and negative numbers. And so integers are positive and negative whole numbers, and they include 0. So numbers to the right of 0, so the number line is what we use here. So anything to the right of 0 is positive. Anything to the left of 0 will be negative. Okay? Some real world situations that indicate positive would be depositing money in your bank account. So when you put money into the bank, that is called a deposit. Okay? When you score points in a basketball game or runs in a baseball game, goals in a soccer game, those are all scoring is positive. When you're going up stairs or an elevator, that is positive. Gaining weight is written positively. Okay? All those are indicated with positive numbers. Negatives would be temperatures below 0. When you owe someone money or you take money out of your bank account, and that is called a withdrawal. When you dive under the ocean, negative. When you overdraw a bank account, that is negative. So those are all positive and negative situations in the real world. Okay, so if you look at these number lines on the screen, the number line is something that you can use to visually see positive and negative numbers and determine what direction that you should move and how many units in order to compare or look at positive and negative integers. Okay, integer is any whole number, and it's positive or negative. Those are what we call integers, and that includes 0. So if you look, we have a horizontal number line here, and we have a vertical number line here. So each one, when you look at the horizontal number line, positive numbers are to the right, negative numbers are to the left. 0 is not positive or negative. It's right in the middle. So when we are comparing numbers, we're always going to use 0 as kind of our home base. We're going to start from 0, and we'll say, if I want to find negative 5, I will say it is 5 units to the left of 0 on the number line. I will move 5 units to the left. There's negative 5. If I want to find a positive 7, then I'm going to move 7 units to the right from 0 on the number line. Okay? If I want to look at the vertical number line, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use 0 as my home base, and then I'm either going to move up for positive or down for negative. So the number line is something that you can draw on your own at any time, or use one that's provided for you to help you solve any numbers with positive or negative integers. Okay, we're going to talk about some real world situations pertaining to positive and negative numbers. Okay, if you look at this set of notes, you have a bank vault. That is the first thing here. When you put money in the bank, money in is a deposit, and that is always going to be positive. Okay, when you take money out or you owe money, that is called a withdrawal. Oh, snap. That is a withdrawal. And that will always be negative. Okay? So putting money in, positive, with that's going to be a deposit. Taking money out, you're going to withdraw it. That is negative. Okay? Then if you look down below here, we have another scenario listed. Okay? So this scenario involves a hiker and a scuba diver and a sailboat. Okay? So this is all about what we call sea level. And so there are 3 situations that pertain to sea level. So if you notice the 0 on the side here, 0 means that you are at sea level. So when a boat is sailing on the ocean, you see there it says I am sailing, so I am at sea level. So 0 represents sea level. So 0 is sea level. Okay. Then you see this hiker guy, right? He's going up a hill. So he is increasing, right? He's walking up a hill. So he is going up. That's what we call above sea level, and that's positive. So anything positive is called above sea level. So any positive numbers pertaining to sea level are above sea level. Then you have the scuba diver guy. He's in the negative zone. Okay? He's underwater. So anything down or negative is below sea level. So whenever you have problems, word problems, and you hear the words above sea level, you automatically should be thinking positive number. You hear the word at sea level, the number you're thinking should be 0. You hear below sea level, you should be thinking negative. So you don't need to write he is at negative 34 feet below sea level. You just need to write 34 feet below sea level. That word below is telling us that it's negative. Below indicates negative. Just like if I said I am at 259 feet above sea level, that word above indicates that this 259 feet is a positive number. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Okay, now I want to talk to you about something called opposites. So opposites have to do with integers. Okay, so 2 points on a number line that are the same distance from 0, but in opposite directions are opposites. Okay, that's the definition. And you can see that on the vocab card here by definition. And then the characteristics, it's the same number. One is positive and one is negative, but 0 is its own opposite. Okay, and some examples, if you look over here, 2 and negative 2 are opposites. Negative 9 and 9 are opposites. 147 and negative 147 are opposites. And then 0 and 0 opposites. And then what are not opposites? 0 and negative 0. There's no such thing as negative 0. So that's not an example. And then something called absolute value is different than opposites. And you're going to learn about that soon. So let's do an opposite on the number line here. So if I have a positive 3, that is 1, 2, 3 units, right? 1, 2, 3. I go 1, 2, 3 units to the right of 0 on the number line. And then a negative 3 is 1, 2, 3 units to the left of 0. So I'm just going to get rid of that. So you can see that 3 and negative 3 are opposites of each other. They're both the same distance from 0 on the number line. Okay. Another side note here is any number plus its opposite will equal 0. So 3 plus negative 3 will give me 0. Negative 3 plus 3 will give me 0. Okay, so that's another little side note. So any number has an opposite. So any positive number will have the same number on the very opposite side of 0 on the number line. Think if you folded this number line at 0, this dot and this dot would meet, fold in half. That's why they're opposites. Okay? Okay, now we're going to talk about something called absolute value. The absolute value of an integer is its distance from 0 on the number line. The notation, and it looks like this. When they say notation, what they're talking about is how we write it. It looks like this. So if I was going to say the absolute value of 7, I would write it like this. It's two straight up and down lines, similar to brackets, but they're taller. Okay, is used to write an integer. If you look here on this anchor chart over here, what it's saying is 2 and -2 are both 2 units away from 0 on the number line. Okay, so positive 2 is 2 units to the right of 0, -2 is 2 units to the left of 0. But distance cannot be negative. Okay, so how we measure that is the absolute value of -2 is 2. Okay, and so then we say the absolute value of 2 is also 2. So if you see something like this, they want to know what the absolute value of -2 is equal to. I'm going to write it a little better. So the absolute value of -2 is equal to 2. And the absolute value of 2 is equal to 2. So they're saying when you see these absolute value symbols, all that means is how far away from 0 is that number on the number line? What is the distance? And the answer is 2 units. And that number will never be negative. Absolute value is always positive. If you look here on the vocab card, always positive. Okay? So the definition of that is the distance a number is from 0 on the number line. And we went through some examples here. The absolute value of 4 is 4. The absolute value of -2 is 2. The absolute value of -4 is 4. Absolute value of 23 is 23. And like we said, it's always, always, always going to be a positive number. Okay? There is only one, exception to that is if you see something written like this, we read this as the opposite of the absolute value of -4. Well, in that case, what's the absolute value of -4? 4, and the opposite of 4 is -4, so that's the answer to that, okay? So the only difference would be is if you have this opposite sign outside, it would be the opposite of the absolute value of -4, okay? Okay, here's just a real world situation that we use absolute value in that you probably didn't realize you were using it in something called absolute value until now. Okay, so in a real world situation, if you have a $50 gift card and you spend $25, the change in your gift card balance is represented by -$25, right? Because you spent $25. But you don't say, I just spent -$25. What you say is, I made it a $25 purchase, or I spent $25. That word made a $25 purchase or spent $25 indicates negative, right? And so what that is showing you is the absolute value of -$25, right? Which is equal to 25. Okay, but when we say spent, that is showing us that it's a negative amount. Okay, so if you said, I went down 17 flights of stairs, that word down is indicating to you that it is a negative number. You're not going to say, I went -17 flights of stairs. You're not going to say that. You're going to say, I went down 17 flights of stairs. That makes a lot more sense. So you probably didn't know you were using absolute value up until this point, but you actually were. We just now are introducing that term to you. Okay, lastly, we just have some tips for success when dealing with positive and negative integers. Draw a number line to help you visualize the problem you're using. Negative and positive numbers are something you're not quite used to working with together, especially those negative numbers. Work left and right from 0. Use 0 as your home base. That I can't stress you enough how important that number line is. think of the situation that you're working with, and then study the key terms like above, below, at. And those words really apply to above sea level, below sea level, at sea level. Temperatures, above freezing, below freezing. Freezing would be 0 then. Think about things like ground floor would be 0. Up would be positive. Below or basement would be negative. Okay, so you got to think about those key terms in those situations. Deposit would be positive in terms of money. Withdraw would be negative in terms of money. And then those other words that you just learned this time, like opposite, every integer has an opposite. So every positive integer has a opposite, the same distance from 0 on the other side of the number line. And then that new one you just learned, absolute value, which is never negative. It is a number's distance from 0 on the number line. And that new word that's most important, integer. Okay, so these are all whole numbers, and they're either positive and negative whole numbers, and 0 are included in that. And integers are super important. You're going to keep working with those all year long, so please get familiar with that term too. Okay, I hope that video was helpful. Welcome to 6th grade math.